Howdy, class. How everybody's doing? Are y'all working on your quiz? I hope so. I finally listed it in the proper place in assignments, not in the quizzes. It didn't work out there. So sorry if it threw some of you off, but you've got plenty of time to do it. It's not due until midnight tomorrow. So you've got a long time to do it. I hope you've watched the documentary or you're frantically watching it right now to answer the essay questions. Good luck on that. I see some of you are already handing in your reflection journals. That's great. I just now started grading writers, literature. I'm getting through those. And then your last one will be the Citizen Kane one, which should be the last assignment. And that's it, folks. Class gets over this Thursday. That's it. I'll probably do one more lecture to finish it off, give me a last little shot of humanities. But today I want to end the cinema section of the course with some riveting information about movies that perhaps you probably do not know. And that is, what is the future of cinema? The future's here. What is current cinema doing? What's in the movie theaters right now? What's making money right now? Are our stories being told? What do you think? You tell me. Is it meaningful, or is it simply time killers and entertainment to kill more time? We're all struggling with this. I grew up with movies that meant life and death. Not so sure it means that much right now, because we're doing a lot of comic book stories, and that's fine. But it's not really the condition of living day-to-day life here on the planet Earth. So movies have to be real and meaningful and dark and all that. Yes, they do. But you could do it all sorts of ways. There's great comedies that are dark comedies, like Fargo. Maybe you've seen it. Wonderful dark comedy. Terrifying, actually, but also very funny. There's still some great cinema happening. A lot of foreign countries. Look what won the Academy Award this year, Nomadland. How many of you seen it? I'm guessing very few of you. Prove me wrong. Zip me off an email and said, I saw it and I loved it. It was a bad year for cinema because of the pandemic. Bad year for a ton of things. But it was a good year for cinema being streamed on our Wi-Fi. They say maybe the cinema is never going to be the same again. People aren't going back to the movie theaters. It's just too easy to sit at home and watch everything on the big screen at home. So the future's here right now. And there's still stories to be told. You don't think all the stories have been told? They haven't. Your story hasn't been told from your point of view, with your voice. And so we're always searching these stories out. You know, the entire point of this course is, I hope, is to instill in you all that our collective stories is what makes our humanity. That's what we're going through for hundreds and hundreds of years, since we're living in caves. They were drawing on cave walls. Somebody was drawing a hunt, something on the cave wall to prove that they existed when they existed and it mattered. So I keep asking you guys, does Shakespeare matters? Does Steinbeck, Hemingway matter? Do these filmmakers matter? Does Pablo Picasso matters? Why? Because we're still living with that mystery of discovering why so many artists, from painters to writers to musicians to whomever, we're still looking at their stuff many hundreds of years after their death. So it's all not just contemporary stuff. Years after their death. So it's all not just contemporary stuff. Authors, writers, painters have been trying to get out who we are since the beginning of time. And we're still trying to figure it out. That's why art will continue. That's why movies will continue. Why are horror movies so popular right now? Why do you think? Because they're cheap and easy? Yeah, they're cheap and they're not. I'm not saying they're easy to make, but there's a formula there that is tried and true. How to scare somebody is, once you know the formula, it's not that difficult, and it's almost a for sure. It's going to sell some popcorn, and people are going to be scared because people like to be scared. People like to be terrified to the threshold of death. Why do we go on roller coasters and goofy rides at Disney World, Disneyland, whatever? Why do we like that? Why do people bungee jump or parachute or throw themselves off cliffs to dive into the ocean? That thrill of perhaps losing our lives, I guess, is important. Well, when you're in a comfortable of your own home or in a movie theater safely with your friends, there's a horror film there, you know you're not going to be harmed because the real horror is outside the theater. The fake horror is the movie up on the big screen, and we could deal with that. Try dealing with the real horror outside the window. I mean, this week alone in the world, Germany is underwater, floods. California, Oregon is on fire. Hundreds of houses are being lost. The heat waves has killed hundreds of people, thousands of animals. We have mass shootings, corrupt businessmen, corrupt politicians. The real horror is a lot more horrifying than a horror movie where there's somebody chasing somebody with a big knife or whatever they do. I'm not a big horror fan. I find them not intellectually engaging enough for me to really love them. My favorite horror movie of all time was made in 1965. It's called The Haunting. Okay, guys, here's a dare. Watch it alone at night. I dare you. Like when I was 12 and I saw it, I had nightmares about that movie, I think, for 20 years. The Exorcist, 1973, was a horrifying movie. Terrifying. Little girl possessed by Satan, supposedly, or a demon devil. It's a little girl. That's why it was horrifying. If it was an adult, we could deal with that. But a child, an innocent child. Have you guys seen The Exorcist? I don't mean the remakes. I'm talking about the original, 73, with Linda Blair as this young child. It's horrifying. It gives you nightmares. It gave people passed out in the movie theaters. That's how great, you know. And what's more horrifying than an unseen evil entity? That's pretty horrifying. She's possessed by supposedly Satan. Anyway, maybe you've seen these kind of quick, inexpensively made films called paranormal. Those are terrifying. Nobody wants to see stuff that goes on at night when we're sleeping safely in our beds. Why do you think so many horror films take place are in and around the bed? Who's seen Freddy's Nightmare or all the Nightmare on Elm Street? If you go to sleep, Freddy will bring you down into his world and probably kill you. So sleep is danger. That's where the horror is. The place where we're supposed to be comfortable, relaxed, warm, is the place where Freddy kills people. Paranormal behavior is the same thing. People are sleeping and they're being messed with at night by unknown entities, supposedly on home video cameras. And that's what makes it horrifying. The thing we're supposed to be safe in, which is our beds, we're not. How many here was scared to look under your bed when you were a kid at night? Who thought there was monsters living under your bed? I know you did. Who didn't look into the closet door at 2 in the morning? You closed it, I bet. You didn't keep the closet open at night. Children are terrified of these, what's in the closet or what's underneath the bed. You know where that stems from? It stems from fairy tales. That's how people used to put their kids to sleep. They tell them a scary fairy tale about the evil thing that lurks in the closet or underneath the bed. It's in our psychic. How many of you, when you were kids, when you fell asleep at night, your arm fell out of the covers, kept your arm hanging out there in the middle of the... I bet you don't keep your arm out there now. I bet you pull it in, you feel safer when your arm's in the covers. Like your bedspread's going to save you from anything. But it's a classic thing of children. You run and you hide in your bed if something's evil happening. You see it on a million movies. You read it in a bunch of novels. Somebody's trying to break in your house, and so you pull the covers over your head like they can't see you. You're protected. But you know what? You're not protected. It's just a wool blanket or cotton sheets or whatever you sleep in, sleeping bag. It's not going to save you from anything. But that's the myth of horror films. They live on that. These cliches of what is safe, what you think is safe, and then they take that and they turn it on its head to see, aha, it's not safe. Jaws did a great job of that. We all love going out in the ocean, like going out and surfing and boating and partying at the ocean. Thank you, Steve Silberg, for putting a great white shark in the water to terrify all of us. Horror, when the culture is in decline, horror rises up. There's more horror TV series right now. There's a ton of them. I can't keep them all straight. We are terrified to look at what we don't understand. We must like to be scared. But like a TV series or a movie, you can shut it off and you can look around. But are you safe? In the 1980s, I know you watched the documentary that the quiz is being based on. Hope you watched it. Hope you got something out of it. It goes up until about 1979. So after we come through the 70s of the auteur director, we're going to the 80s. What was happening then? Well, we got all those endless sequels from Star Wars, Jaws. They started it. They made too much money. And movie studios took back control with these low budget big budget B movies, essentially. That's what those movies are. They're B movies. They're melodramas. Jaws and Star Wars. Sorry, folks, they're melodramas, and that was usually called a B movie. But they're huge budgets. After Star Wars, how many Star Wars has there been? They're still making them, prequels, sequels, whatever. Um, then we had Superman. Then they started bringing in the DC Comics, Batman, and then Marvel Comics, X-Men, Iron Man. That's where we are right now. We're still doing it. So something that started in the late 70s, here we are 45 years later, and we're still making endless sequels. Fast and Furious Part 9, come on, give me a break. Who's watched all 9 episodes and got excited about every single one of them? Really? Okay. How many sequels do we need to see of these things? Someone said and if you look at the sequels, usually it's almost retelling the same story. Someone said to me once they find sequels comforting. They know what they're going to get. See, that makes me uncomfortable. When I go in to see a work of art, whether it's literature or painting, I want to see something I don't know what to expect. When I read a novel, I don't want to read the same novel over and over. I don't want to look at the same Andy Warhol over and over, or Picasso or Van Gogh. I don't want to listen to the same Beethoven's Fifth every day. I want to find something surprising. So you start looking for other avenues. That's why the length and breadth of cinema is um, so immense. There's a ton of stuff to look at out there, from silent films to the Depression era films of the 30s, the World War II movies of the 40s, the method actor movies of the 50s, where rebellion was on the rise, to the revolution of rock and roll of the 60s, and the new film school directors taking over Hollywood for a brief time because their movies actually made money. To now we're in the corporation of these big conglomerates that are the studios now. Look at your credits on most average movies right now. See how long they are? There's 400 or 500 credits. That never used to be. Hell, on every movie now, there's 5 or 6 writers. What they do now in current cinema is they have someone who's good at writing, say, action sequences, but he or she, they hired them for that. And then other people are writing good for female dialogue, and they hire them for that. Other people are good for writing male dialogue, and they're good for that. There's people who are good for writing comedies, drama, musicals, sad movies, happy movies, and you get hired specifically for that. It never used to be like that. Screenwriters of yesterday, one person usually wrote a script, and it's one person's vision. One person directed the film, it's one person's vision. Now it's a collective vision. And so I think we're losing something in that collective vision that waters it all down. I can't tell half the time who directed what movie. There was a time when I could pick out who directed a movie by saying one scene, even without the sound on, because they had a certain style. They knew where to place the camera, how to move the camera, how they maneuver the actors, the mise en scene of the action. That means essentially how they stage action in front of their camera. If they move the camera, if it's always moving, if it's going backwards, if it's locked off and still, that's style. It's their way of telling a story. And directors, up until maybe the last 10 years, had a distinct style. Now, who has a style right now you can spot? I know what you're saying. You're probably saying, if I could hear you, you're probably saying Quentin Tarantino. Absolutely. Maybe Christopher Lynch. You might not know who that is. Absolutely. Um, Tim Burton, who has a very distinct style. You can spot his style. But so much of it's gotten watered down. Here's another one. You either love him or hate him. Wes Anderson. He's got a new movie coming out. I'm on the border with that. I find him a little too precious. He did his best movie to me was his first movie, Bottle Rocket. But I've liked other ones. He did his best movie to me was his first movie, Bottle Rocket. But I've liked other ones. But the last couple of ones, precious. I wanted to throw a glass of water in his face or something, saying, "Come on!" And he's got a new one out. I just saw the previews. It showed in Cannes Film Festival. It looks so. It's a fairy tale. Very, very precious. Twee, if you know what I'm talking about. But that's his style. They make enough money that he gets a lot of actors who want to work with him because they dig it. I'll go see it because he does have a really amazing visual style. Coen Brothers, absolutely. Fargo. They don't hit it out of the park every time, but they have their own style, absolutely. The two brothers who made The Matrix, who are now women, by the way, they have a distinct style. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. But that's getting harder and harder to distinguish the visual style. We're kind of losing that in this corporate filmmaking era we're living through right now. As we're coming out of the 80s, and we had a lot of silly movies that made a lot of money, like Goonies and Gremlins and Tom Cruise and Top Gun. Do you like Top Gun, really? Tom Cruise without a shirt on, no thank you. But they just made a sequel to it, folks. And Tom Cruise is almost 60. Hopefully he has his shirt on in it. Is he still a fighter pilot? Bang macho, whatever he does, where that Tom Cruise magic is. Because it was a success. Guys like Sylvester Stallone made Rocky 1, 2, 3, 4. I think there's 5 or 6 of them. He made Rambo 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I heard he's going to make another one. The guy's 75 years old. He's going to make another Rambo. Wow. I guess he needs the money, or he just wants to have the ego boost because it's kind of embarrassing, I believe, now. All these action stars like Liam Neeson, they're getting a little old to be single-handedly killing everybody. But that's what we're buying. I guess that's what people want to see. Revenge is a big deal. In the late 80s, there was a film festival called USA Film Festival, and Robert Redford, the actor and director, he's a guy who believes in cinema. He took over the festival, financed it, and renamed it Sundance. And it changed everything. All of a sudden, it was for us now. But that's how it started. People, almost every independent filmmaker out there has had their film silly. Has anybody here in city? It's up the road about 40 miles, ski resort town. I made a film that did not get in Sundance, but got into this other film festival called Slamdance, and they played it at the same time. This is 1995, guys, a long time ago. And it was called Slamdance, and it was done same time as Sundance. And so our film was screening in Slamdance at the time of Sundance. And Slamdance has gotten huger and huger. When the festival first started, I was there the first year, there's only 12 films. Now they get 2,000 or 3,000 submissions. Now that festival can make or break careers. But Sundance was trying to give something back. And so a lot of filmmakers like Greg Araki and Nick Gomez, they were making low budget films. That filmmakers like Greg Araki and Nick Gomez, they were making low budget films that got noticed with $1 million for your film. And nothing stopping you.